Yes, we do have a terrific speaker tonight, and it's my honor and privilege to present Ryan Morales. And so Ryan's a college graduate. He's been active in the Democratic Party, and he's taking on one of the more powerful persons in the state, Wilton Simpson. And those of you who are working hard with us on the net metering bill will recall that Ryan's opponent was the very one that introduced to the legislature the net metering bill to prevent or make it more difficult for rooftop solar in Florida. And of course, his sponsor for that was Florida Power and Light. And if you're paying attention to your light bill, you know why it's going up. And so Ryan, we have high hopes for you, and you have the floor, my friend.
Well, thank you very much, Gene, and thank you everybody for having me tonight. It is an honor to be here. So my name's Ryan Morales. I'm running to be the 13th Commissioner of Agriculture here in the state of Florida. I'm also running to be the first Latino and Native American commissioner here in the state of Florida and in the South. So we're trying to do a few things here. So who am I? Who's Ryan? Big question that everybody asks. So as I said before, I'm the candidate for Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services. My biggest three things that I run on basically are a clean environment. I'm looking to make sure that we stop big sugar and making sure that we keep holding big agriculture accountable for a lot of this runoff that we have, and not just big agriculture and big sugar. You know, we need to hold residents as well and people that are doing big developments accountable for all this, because this overdevelopment is basically causing a lot of this over fertilization in the water, basically creating these algae blooms that are destroying our ecosystem here in Florida. I'd like to avoid these problems. So I'm bringing in some awesome technology. I got some guys from Australia that have something called quadratic vortex water cleaning solutions. These things are basically going to clean up Lake Okeechobee and Lake Apopka in record time. They're talking to me and doing it in less than 6 months. I'd prefer they do it within my administration, so that way we can show the difference. But yeah, 6 months would be awesome if they could do that. So I'm not holding them to their word, but if they could do something and make a difference within 6 months, I would be simply flabbergasted and amazed. So we're looking to bring in people like that. We're looking to bring in new technology. Second thing I talk about, is cannabis, legalization of cannabis and home grow. I believe in natural medicine as somebody who can, like I said before, I relate as a Native American and Latino. So as a Native, to me, natural medicine is important. My mom always taught me that you'll always find the solution in nature. And that's always been held true when it comes to marijuana. And even nowadays, I even talk about psychedelics like psilocybin and mushrooms, and how they're helping heal people and actually help with the opioid addiction problem that we have. People are able to kick the opioid habits basically overnight with just microdosing psychedelics, psilocybin. So that's one of the big things that I've been proponing and pushing for, medical legalization here in the state of Florida, to be able to give veterans, police, fire department, EMT, anybody who deals with traumatic instances, give them the ability to microdose, please, because these people need that stuff. And anybody who's got any sort of opioid addiction would benefit from this. So to me, I'm a huge believer in, like I said, nature and medicine, and just finding solutions within nature, not having to use chemicals to continue to poison ourselves. And then the other big thing that I talk about is basically our carry conceal program. I'm in charge of the licensing as the Commissioner of Agriculture. So that program right now, sadly enough, just got saved because of the Uvalde incident. So that massacre in Uvalde just saved the carry conceal program in the state of Florida for a few more months. Ron DeSantis, Wilton Simpson, Speaker of the House, Chris Sprowls, all of them have already said that they're looking to pass a permitless carry law on their watch. So we just got saved right now this last session. It did not happen, but they were planning on doing it. So they stopped. but it doesn't mean that they completely stopped. It just means that they were just paused and that they'll be reconvening to make sure that it happens sooner or later. So my goal is to make sure that we protect the carry conceal program, as well as force or ask legislation to help me expand the background process in that regard. I believe in the next of kin or spouse requirement, which is something that they do in some states already in the United States. I believe Maine does this, that they do the next of kin, which is basically they ask your spouse or your mom or your brother or your sister if this person is right enough to hold a weapon, and basically hold them accountable as well if this person does any damage with the weapons. And the other thing, we also discussed is basically being able to insure these weapons and making sure that we continue to expand the background checks with social media checks. Sorry, going back to what I can do. So yeah, social media checks is the other thing that I'm trying to add to the background search on that end, because I believe most people post most of their life up on social media, and those are people that we want to make sure that we capture. Especially a lot of these extremists do tend to post a lot of their stupidness up online, so we want to make sure we deal with that. So why am I here? Why am I talking to you? And why am I running for the position of agriculture? So usually what I tell people is I have a small business. I'm a small business owner here located in the Green Swamp of Claremont. I do have a hemp farm here. My business is business consulting, but I'm also a cybersecurity expert. I've been involved in the development of the internet since 1997. I've worked in Wall Street. I've done major cybersecurity work for the mortgage industry. I've worked side by side with the FBI. And to me, it's super important that we continue to protect people, because I know the risk and the issues that are going on online that most people are not aware of, and the attacks that we're constantly enduring from foreign agents, especially Russia and China, and how they constantly attack our infrastructure. So I've dealt with this. I understand how important it is to have somebody that understands technology in the future. For me, I'm worried about my kids' future. I'm worried about the future of our children. We need somebody who's a true leader, somebody who actually cares about the people. And we need somebody who's going to be a problem solver, not somebody who's just going to sit there, complain, bitch and moan, and not do anything about things. So the problem right now, what is the issue with these weapons? What's going on? Why are we experiencing these issues? So basically, we're having issues right now with weapons manufacturers, people that are making a boku ton of money off of these weapons, and they spend a lot of that money to make sure that they continue to make more money. So they have figured out how to grift off the US government. And not only grift, but open the doors so that way they have no liability to anything that their product does. That is probably the most un-American thing I've ever heard, because you should be held responsible for whatever your product does, like any other American company is held responsible. If a car does something to somebody, they are held responsible for their product. And guns should just be held just as much responsible for these things. So, we have an issue with that. But here in Florida, the biggest issue that we have is somebody by the name of Marion Hammer. She is probably the NRA's biggest pit bull here in the state of Florida, is one of the biggest lobbyists for the NRA, and she's probably one of the most paid lobbyists here in the state of Florida. It goes to show you the gun lobby is strong with her. She gets paid lots of money to make sure that their bills are passed the way that they want them to pass. She basically writes the bills and gives it to all these legislators. She is basically the person responsible for the standard ground law. She's the reason why we actually have the carry conceal program, but now she's fighting to make sure that we remove it. So she's responsible for a lot of these crazy gun laws that have been trying to pass here in the state of Florida. And she'll work with the most extreme of all lawmakers to make sure that they continue to push this agenda. Finally, the last group of people that we're dealing with in the state of Florida and the whole country in general is The Federalist Society. And the Federalist Society is basically a group of lawyers, conservative lawyers, that have teamed up and for the last few decades have been on a basic mission on how to run their conservative agenda throughout the whole country. And part of their conservative agenda is this whole, as they like to call, constitutional carry, but we know very well it is just a permitless carry law. And that is what actually opened the floodgates over in Texas for the mass shootings that have occurred there recently because of Greg Abbott's recent passing of this permitless carry law over there. And they're trying to pass that here in the state of Florida, which, like I said before, we got lucky. Uvalde was the reason why we did not get this law passed recently, because they were just about to, because they already have the law written out, ready to go, and they're ready to pass it. So we need to be careful. We need to keep our eyes open for these folks. But the Federalist Society, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of them before or not. Last time they met with Mr. Ron DeSantis here in the state of Florida, they did it behind closed doors. There was no press allowed, and it was being led by Clarence Thomas and Ginny Thomas, who, as you know, is basically behind a lot of the issues with this January 6th insurrection. Ginny Thomas is behind a lot of the big lie and also responsible for a lot of what was going on during the Trump administration, funny enough. So she seems to have been one of these puppet pullers that was pulling a lot of strings over there for a lot of reasons. But the reason basically is they're trying to pass their agenda. They have a particular agenda, the Federalist Society's agenda, and one of the big issues that they push on is passing this constitutional carry law. This is just going to create more mass murder here in the United States. My kids should not have to run active shooter drills. This is just, it makes no sense for me on how these people think that this is the America that, you know, is safe. It's just not. The good guy with the gun method just does not work. It was proven the other day in Uvalde with 19 scared police officers standing outside, not doing anything. You know, these were children, 10-year-olds, just getting ready for summer. These guys didn't do anything, and they're the ones with the weapons and the armor and all these things. And why? Because the kid had an AR-15. It's sad. It doesn't make any sense. So, you know, the problem is not getting any better. During the pandemic, we basically had a surge in weapon sales. Since this whole year alone, 2022, and it's only June, we already have over 250 mass shootings already in the United States. Right now, 42% of Americans are concerned with the rising gun violence. I'm not going to sit here and say mental health is the issue or say guns in the streets are the issue. I'm going to tell you one thing, and that's basically the truth. The fact is, one party is responsible for the gun violence in America. Only one party, and that GOP is the one that takes ownership of that. We have to remember the Constitution was written to protect people. So when one of its amendments is killing people, it needs to be amended once again to further protect Americans. We could change this, but we need legislators who want to do the right thing. We need to stop voting for a lot of these people that just are not doing their damn job. All they do is stall, obstruct, and just nothing that's good for the people. They try to figure out how to rob the place and just continue to just stall and create more of a bottleneck. And they're just creating more and more problems. The laws can be changed to protect people. And that's basically what they're supposed to be for. You know, we've done this before. We've had to raise the drinking age from 18 to 21 to stop a lot of the drinking and driving that was killing a lot of people back then. We had a ban on assault rifles back in the U.S. in the 1990s, 1994, I believe it was. It worked all the way until 2004, until all of a sudden it was removed and dismissed. We've always had restrictions in place to keep people safe. So why is it that the gun lobby or the gun manufacturers get a pass? There should be no misconstruction of this Second Amendment, especially when it comes to the line of a well-regulated militia. These people are not part of a militia. They're not part of any well-regulated anything. A lot of these people don't even know how to shoot a weapon properly. I'm concerned about these things. There's lots of loopholes that these people have. I know one of the big loopholes is basically that a lot of these people haven't shot this weapon that they're just getting licensed to carry. So I'd like to make sure that we're doing things a little better and right. Um, it sucks that we have to have guns as part of life, but this is America, and the laws in America are not meant to be manipulated to benefit one party or a special interest group. But currently, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with laws that have been manipulated and bent and just basically screwed around with just because these gun manufacturers will pad these guys' pockets and they will bend over backwards and do whatever they want them to do. So we must make sure that people do follow the laws and we ensure that the laws are doing what they're supposed to do, which is protect Americans. Corporations are not Americans, especially when they deal in the art of death. I get really upset because most people don't understand that, you know, the gun manufacturers are basically the only corporation here in the United States that has no responsibility for anything. And it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, look, even in the agricultural field, what was it that one time when the cabbage had a little E. coli situation with like one cabbage or whatever it was, they cleared out all the shelves of particular stock of cabbage, and they moved on it quickly. I mean, we should be able to do things like that. You know, you got places like the UK that, somebody got shot up. What was it? 16 people, I believe. And they immediately, no more guns, no more anything. And no more issues since then. Like, why are we still having issues? How do we call ourselves a first world country when we're basically acting like a bunch of third world idiots? So we're not doing the right thing here. And I'd like to make sure that we continue to do the right thing. So what is the solution? What is the solution to these problems? The solution is basically education. We need to make sure that we're educating people at all times. Our focus is to making sure that we have people understand. Well, number one, I always say understand who the candidates are that you're talking to and dealing with, and who are the ones that are actually going to make a difference in your life. Make sure that they're solid on what they're talking to you about, especially when it comes to this matter and gun issues. Our love for democracy is important, and it is the key to winning these elections that will make a huge difference in your life. But solutions and proposed legislation that we need to help focus on. So what are some of the different solutions that we're basically looking at? So we want to make sure that we help take manufacturers or force them to be brought into the future of weapons. And people ask me, well, what does that look like? Well, what is the future of weapons? Well, currently the way that I see weapons is I see them as archaic. I see them as old. I see them as they should be smarter than they are. You should actually be able to have a weapon lock into your biometrics and know that it's you, and be able to only fire if you're the one that's assigned to that weapon. There should be no reason why a child should pick up your gun and be able to fire your weapon if we have these biometric abilities. Why are we using weapons that can kill when we could actually use weapons that can stun or do other things, instead of actually just being always shoot to kill? Why does it always have to be things like that? Weapons of future, I mean, if you watch plenty of sci-fi movies, you'll see there's plenty of options of imaginatory things that have been thought about. Let's focus on some of these things. It doesn't always have to be, space lasers or anything like that either. But, we need to think about what it is that would make weapons safer and not be something that would make us worried about them ever again. And to me, I believe that weapons with biometrics is going to be key for the future of weaponry if we want to continue to have these things in our society. Personally, do I think that weapons of war belong in the streets? No, I don't. Do I believe handguns and shotguns and things like that belong? Even that, I mean, I'm cool with them because I understand the safety, and I've actually been involved in gun violence where I've actually had a gun pointed at me. So, it sucks. It's not really the best situation to be involved in. And I know they're a part of society and it sucks, but living in a rural area, I know now how important it is to actually have a weapon just to be able to defend yourself, not just from adversaries or people that you think are a threat to you, but as well as coyotes and bears and things that you don't normally expect to come attacking you or your pets. I rescue dogs, so my dogs are, something I concern myself with, especially here in the state of Florida. We live close by lakes, so we get a lot of different animals, especially gators and things like that. So recently, we've had to pull out a 12-foot gator out of the lake close by the house. So things like that are a little concerning, and sometimes we do think that we do have a weapon to take care of things like that, but it's not because we're itching to take out a neighbor or another fellow American, as I like to tell my fellow GOPers. There's no reason why we should be targeting or aiming to take out anybody that is a fellow American, even if we're just disagreeing politically. So the other side, like a well-oiled machine, the GOP basically disperses their message in seconds. And their biggest thing when it comes to guns is the libs are coming for your guns. And we have not been able to pass comprehensive gun legislation for God knows how many years, thanks to the GOP and their nonsense. So we need to stop the GOP at all costs. This election is something that's going to be not only the most important thing for everybody's life, but basically for everybody's life. I mean, they've gone after women, they've gone after the LGBT community, they've gone after brown people, they've gone after black people, they've gone after everybody that they don't like. So guess what? They don't like people that don't like their guns, and that means that they don't like us very much. Permitless carry laws are just dangerous. I really do hope that Governor Beto becomes the next governor of Texas, and I hope he does veto and remove that permitless carry law that was signed over in Texas, because that is just basically one of the worst ideas that they could have ever had to make that a thing in Texas. And we need to make sure it does not continue to happen. The Federalist Society and their agenda is very dangerous, and we need to nip it in the butt as quickly as possible. So how do we win? We need to make sure that we're donating to candidates. We're making sure that we're volunteering for candidates. I myself, I need help. I need volunteers. So please, if you can, make sure that you do visit my website, and we'll connect and we'll go from there. I know people probably have questions for me. I know it's one of those fun things to do here with these interviews. But yeah, I mean, look, the gun thing for me is super important. I'm friends with Fred Guttenberg. I talk to him constantly about this. I know he's been up in DC lately, fighting with and marching with the kids for March of Our Lives. Maxwell Frost is another good friend, good kid. He's, part of the whole March for Our Lives crew. I see how these kids are standing up, and it just boggles my mind how we didn't stop this back when Columbine happened. This is now over 20 something years later, and we're still having issues, and I don't get it why, but it's easy to understand. It's the GOP. They're not allowing us to do anything to stop this, and we need to figure out how to stop them here in the state of Florida from continuing to make more dumb decisions that are going to hurt and kill more people. So, questions?
The GOP, your opponents, and you have two of them in the Republican primary, why will they not say that President Biden won the election?
Oh man, that's easy. That's because they need to keep their base going. If you want to get those people that are stuck in that loop and that brainwash loop of the Trump won the election, then they're going to continue to push those buttons. But as we all know, that's only 28% of the population, I guess you could say. So we still outnumber them. We just got to make sure that we're smart and that, we're tailoring a message that resonates with everybody, not just the Democrats. It needs to resonate with everybody. And to me right now, we know that cannabis is one thing that resonates with everybody. The ability to legalize cannabis is important, but really the clean water thing is super important for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I like to goof on the Republicans that have the yachts, and I'm like, if you want to go out on the water with your girlfriend, you got to make sure the waters are clean, because if not, she's not going to want to go out there. So, but these things are important. And right now, with this gun issue, right now, even though it is a touchy matter with most of these conservatives, what we need to do is appeal to the moderates and those people and people that call themselves NPAs and that don't recognize as conservatives, because I think they see and realize that we need change. It's about time, and this is just ridiculous. I mean, we're killing people off for no reason.
All right, Ryan, I've got one here live from Ann Miller. It says, you're running for Department of Agriculture. What are you going to do to help small farms have access to processing facilities so they can feed their communities?
So I know that's been one of the big issues, and I'm looking to actually open up 4 regional facilities to actually help alleviate that. Wilton signed over a $300 million budget for the next commissioner, and I actually would plan on using part of that budget to make that happen, as well as, making sure that we provide. I know we lost a bunch of facilities, especially during the pandemic too. So that's been the bigger complaint too. How do we keep these facilities alive? So for me, it's about basically networking and keeping these farmers all connected properly, so that way they're working with each other and giving each other business. So for me, marketing them is going to be key, and getting them all connected is going to be the best way possible. So that way we can see where the needs are and what's going to be best. And I know one of the big things that they all complain about lately is just fuel transportation costs, because of the current facilities are so far away from them currently. So look, if Wilton wins, just don't expect anything. If I win, at least know that I'm actually going to try to make this happen and make sure that we get these new facilities open and taking care of people, because we need it. We need to get a lot more of these food out to the table, and there's people that are going to need it and be happier if we do this.
I'll ask you a question, since our priority this year is combating climate change, Ryan. What, as a cabinet member, what can you do to help us in Florida combat climate change?
So the first thing is basically clearing up our waterways. And one of the main things that I plan on doing is that cleaning up our waterways, bringing in teams of experts and scientific experts that have the technology to make it happen fast. That's going to be the biggest thing for me. And then really just kind of figuring out how to use more, rebuilding and regrowing of mangroves, so we can continue to defend a lot of the flooding that's been going on in the South Florida area with the mangroves. We also need to figure out more barriers and more ways to continue to eliminate the so I actually used to live in Miami Beach. I'm very familiar with the flooding. So, I know that needs to be resolved, and that's one of the things that I'd like to continue to help resolve, because if not, they're going to be underwater very soon.
And how about solar power?
Oh man, I'm a big proponent for solar power, and I know that there's newer technology that's way cheaper than the current technology. So I'm looking forward to seeing that come out. But right now, it's just, how do I say? People are just kind of juicing the current technology. It's stupid, but the newer technology is basically pennies on the dollar for the solar panels, and much cheaper and energy efficient to produce. So I'd like to see a lot more of that, and just a lot less of the bulky old stuff. So I'd like to see solar continuing to progress and grow the way that it needs to grow, so that way it actually becomes a more viable energy source for people, because there's still a lot of negative on the cost factor. And that's why I'm excited to know that there is a solution that's already there, and it's coming out soon, and it'll cost way less, and it'll be way more affordable. And I kind of feel bad for some of the people spending money on solar right now, but yeah, when the new solar stuff comes out, it'll be way cheaper and way better.
What about requiring insurance for a gun similar to auto insurance? And I know you've touched on it, but could you expound a little more on it for us?
Sure. I mean, look, so last election cycle, we had a good buddy that would talk to us about guns, and that was one of the things that we always agreed on. And he wasn't he wasn't like, I would say, liberal or progressive or anybody like that. He was somebody who was a gun owner and conservative. So when it comes to the insurance part of things, I feel it's super important because, why do we have insurance on our vehicles? Really, it's just because in case you create some sort of property damage. And human beings can technically be considered part of that. So that's why I feel like guns should actually be insured. And there should also be a licensing feature, basically. So like, you start off with a handgun, or like you level up as you go along, so that way, if you want to get an AR-15, you'll have to actually wait till you're 24, 28 to be able to get that by proving capability with the other weapons first. So I believe there should be sort of levels when it comes to the weapons as well. But some people think that we're crazy. I don't think it's crazy. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like you can go out and buy a grenade or a rocket launcher. So those are just levels that will not be obtainable, but there would also be kind of levels too that the military can use to assign if they wanted to. As a human, as a civilian, you should only be able to reach a certain level, and that's it. And even then, I don't even think assault weapons should be part of that, but here we are. Welcome to America. So even though we got to deal with them, I wish there would be some sort of system, and I wish it would be more expensive based on the level that you're at too. So it would just eliminate a lot of the BS that we have and just really add a little bit more. And I hate to say it, add more hoops to the whole process, but really not adding hoops. We're still not taking away your right to own a weapon. We just want to make sure that you're abiding by the law and being a good citizen. Because if you're in it, sorry, I was about to curse. Sorry. If you're going to be a bad person with the weapon, let's say when you're 18, 19 and wave it around and threaten people with it, then you shouldn't graduate and you should not get anything more than what you have in your hand. And even then you should probably lose your ability to carry a weapon if you're out there threatening people with it. So to me, as a man, and not a young man anymore, but I know when I was 20, 28, around that age, I probably should have never had a weapon in my hand. And I know better because we're stupid at that age. Men do dumb things at an early age, especially in our 20s, especially because we're showing off to try to get the girls. So, and this is why you see a lot of these problems with these gentlemen. But no, you shouldn't. I don't think young men should have weapons. I think they're still very immature. I think, most men don't really start maturing properly until they're 28. So to me, even then, I think 28 would probably be the right age for a automatic weapon or an assault weapon like that, if we were going to allow them. But I am not the one that's legislating. I know people are trying to push it to 21, which is an improvement of the current age of 18. So I'd like to see some improvement on that. But yes, insurance would be awesome, even though I hate insurance. But yes, insurance would be awesome.
Ryan, one thing that I would point out to you with our group, I would venture to say that probably most of our members own some kind of weapon, and many of our members enjoy shooting. In fact, there's some of our members that are very good sporting clay shooters. So
But I would
really
imagine
enjoy it.
but I would imagine most of you guys have that word vet. So that means you guys have actually gone through training on how to use these weapons. So by gosh, fire away.
Yeah, but the important thing is, here's the important thing about our group. Even though a lot of our members like guns, our group and our membership, we are absolutely opposed to civilians having assault weapons.
I've never understood that, and it boggled my mind in 2004 when they actually let that whole law just completely fall off the thing, because I mean it worked, and I'm sorry, but I remember especially Miami in the 80s. I mean, it was bad. The drug war was bad. It was just people were just shooting each other with Uzis and machine guns, and why the hell would you want that? And it just boggles my mind that these people are asking for that again. But I guess it's the same way when you think about the environmental issues that like used to happen. Like I remember New York back in the 80s, you would see a cloud of yellow nasty above it. You don't see that anymore, thanks to a lot of the regulation that they put in place to keep that, under control, and it's worked. So, I feel the same thing with weapons. We need to just kind of contain the issue. But my biggest issue now is that if we contain it now, what do we do about the current situation of all these weapons on the street? You know, these people are not going to willingly hand them back. You know, very small percentage of people will sell them back to you or whatever if we do a buyback program. But the millions upon millions of weapons that are out there, especially massive assault weaponry that these people have, and I mean, we're talking about like some of these guys are ex-military, you know that are out there creating these militia groups that are basically trying to screw over democracy because they believe in the big lie. So, you know, that's an issue. But I'm thankful that there's groups of people like you that understand democracy and believe in democracy and believe that, you know, we need to be responsible gun owners. And I agree with that. I believe in responsible gun ownership. I don't believe that my kids should not have to practice active shooter drills. That is just complete BS. I am cool with them practicing hurricane drills. That makes sense to me. But this active shooter stuff is complete bullshit. And I'm not cool with it. I really am not. I didn't have to do this when I was a kid. What did we do when we were a kid? Oh my God, we just had to worry about earthquakes. And sorry, I went to school up north, so we had earthquake drills. That was it. And that was nothing. I mean, so yeah. I'm like very thankful for people like you, seriously, because it doesn't make any sense why we have these weapons out in the streets. It just never made any sense to me. They're not there to hunt anything. They're not there to do anything other than mow down people. And the fact that you're shooting rounds that faster than God knows what, it just, you give nobody a chance to defend themselves. I mean, it's not like we have shields readily available for us to protect ourselves. And even then, if we had to do that, that would just be miserable, having to carry something like that with us all the time, everywhere we go. So that's not the life I want to live. And I'd like to make sure that we go back to actually living a free life of not having to worry about things like that. You know, being able to go to the movies in peace. You know, being able to go grocery shopping in peace, being able to go to church. And I'm not a person that claims to be a believer in God, but hey, everybody needs their privacy in church, needs to be able to worship their God in peace and not have to worry about being shot up because somebody says, hey, you're brown, I'm going to shoot you. That is not cool. So, you know, what do we do? How do we stop these people? I believe we need to just stop them at the polls. We need to vote these people out and get people in an office that are actually going to go and do something for us. More info on Australia Tech to purify Lake Okeechobee. So I'm still working with the guys on getting them over here from Australia for the quadruple vortex water cleaning solution that actually provides it has two byproducts. Well, not two, but multiple byproducts. And one of the main ones is basically clean water. The other one is green energy. And the other byproduct is the waste, which can be sold back to the fertilizer, you can actually pull gold, silver, platinum out of these waters. So it just depends on what minerals are found in these waters. But basically, these guys are going to be pulling all that stuff out of the water and giving us back clean water. They come in mobile units, and we could plug them right into local energy depots and plug right into the local energy supply areas. So that way we could power them up and give them more power. I'm looking to bring those guys in. They're wanting to come in desperately quickly because they know it's an emergency. So I'm trying to get them here by September. If I do, I'll keep you all posted, and I'm looking forward to, you know, really making a difference, especially when it comes to restoring and saving the Everglades. I believe this is super important for that purpose. So that's why these people are coming to help me out. How do we protect Florida's growing lands from developers? One of the biggest issues that we have is the new generation not wanting to farm. They don't want to do any of the work. So we're trying to make it easier for them by providing what we call precision agriculture techniques. And it's basically just bringing robotics out into the fields and making their job easier. So we're looking to make a lot of these investments into a lot of the newer technology to make sure that, you know, we're helping them grow and be part of the future and grow into the future, because we need a lot of these farmers to do a lot of these future improvements, because it'll actually help with the runoff. We're trying to work on eliminating a lot of the runoff that's being created by the agriculture community. And if I could stop it at the core, not only will it save them money because they're not wasting money on fertilizer that they don't need to, but it'll also yield better product for them. And we know the new technology that is available out there is going to make everybody's life so much better. And they're not going to have to worry about buying it. I'm going to focus on the state buying it for them and providing this as a service to our farmers, so that way we keep them going. So for me, it's offering them incentives, making sure that we keep them, happy to be a farmer, making sure that they're continuing to farm, and making sure that we're protecting them and doing things right. But really, at the same time, helping them eliminate the problems that they get bitched out for. Basically, it's the runoff. So if we could eliminate the runoff, be it from the fertilizer or be it from the poop or from all the animal waste and all that stuff, that's the goal. So I have methods, I have scientists, I have people that are willing to work with us and make sure that we get this all done. And even then, like I said, there's a budget, the surplus budget that's being handed over to the next commissioner, and I'm not trying to pocket it because that's not my goal. My goal is to actually use it. So I'm not Wilton. Wilton will pocket it. He'll definitely pocket it. I'm not pocketing that. I'm using it to make sure that we do good. So like I said, my biggest goal, if I could do anything right and be known for something, I want to be known as the guy that restored the Everglades and brought back life to the Everglades, because that to me is key to the state of Florida and to the ecology in the state of Florida. I believe that if we don't save the Everglades in the next 4 years, we're going to lose them. And if we lose the Everglades, we are just going to fall apart. So I really do hope that we could do what we need to do to save the Everglades. And that is going to be my key thing. So if I could save the Everglades, it'll save the rest of Florida. You'll never see an algae bloom in the state ever again under my watch. Real quickly, I know somebody dropped in something about veterans and how to get more land into veteran hands. I know there are some government properties out there that we can work with and actually try to reacquire some property back that we've given away to sugar. I'd like to work on doing some of that and working on getting the lands back into some of these veterans to help work the fields. But not only just the veterans, but I'm actually trying to get the natives some of the land back that they're owed. We still owe them a lot of property.
Thank you, Ryan, for having this moment with us. It's been really inspirational. Myself, as a combat vet, I want to tell you, I'm standing behind you and supporting what you're doing.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you again, Ryan. I'd like to let everybody know that you can also get our newsletter. Florida veterans have a newsletter called the Common Sense News. You can go to our website. It's floridaveteransforcommonsense.org. If you click on the CS News on the menu, you can subscribe there. And of course, don't forget about us on social media. I believe that's pretty much it for the meeting. I'm going to ask for an adjournment and say, all in favor?
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting's adjourned.